Hey folks, and welcome back to another Mystic Umbreon video. I can't seem to get my pronunciations right today. There we go. Today I'm going to be trying to answer a question I've had for a little bit now. Just how strong is the Paldean Elite Four? Does it stack up well against previous Elite Fours? Does it happen to have a singular trainer within that could call themselves the strongest Elite Four member of all time? I'm not too sure just yet, but I have a feeling we're in for a really interesting deep dive today. I'm gonna look at this one perhaps a little differently than other videos, only looking at the Elite Four themselves and their initial battles, since you can't actually rebattle them, of course. But with that said, let's just go ahead, get into it, and hopefully we can all come to an agreeable conclusion. So I want to start by taking a brief look at each member of this Elite Four lineup, starting with Rika. She's a ground type master, and I guess we can go ahead and compare her to some of the other ground type users in the Elite Fours within the past generations we've seen. There's Bertha, and well, that's it. We went over it a while back, but I do think that the Elite Four in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are the strongest, so I guess this is fitting that we only have Bertha to compare to Rika. Now, while Bertha's team is built in a way where it takes advantage of items and actual recovery moves, Rika's isn't. But that doesn't mean it's any worse of a team. She has a Clodsire that relies on Toxic Protect stalling and the powerful Earthquake move, which is honestly a fantastic ace Pokemon. They even have some crossover with both featuring a Whiscash on their teams. I'd actually say that Rika's Whiscash is a bit better with its moves. It definitely suffers a little bit from not holding a Rindo Berry, but even then, it should be able to do damage a little better. I'm not too impressed by her camera up though. I'd rather have the Golem that Bertha has. Though having a little grass type coverage isn't a bad thing. As for Donphan and Dugtrio, yeah, sign me up for them over Sudowoodo and Hippowdon. You've got more than enough wall capability with just Clodsire over Quagsire and Hippowdon, so you may as well go hyper offensive. However, when comparing Rika to other openers in the Elite Four like Sydney and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and Lorelei and Yellow, well, she isn't as good as them. At all. Lorelei's Yellow team is one of the scariest Elite Four openers ever, and Sydney's Super Luck Absol can be pretty annoying to have to face off with. Clodsire is a great ace, as I said earlier, but I think that Absol could really cause even more pain and annoyance in the long run. I guess to wrap up this part with Rika, her team really is just the Clodsire with support by Donphan and Dugtrio. I feel as though her Camerupt and Whiscash are wasted spots that could have been taken up by either Crocodile, Mudsdale, or Gastrodon, but I get the desire to have as much coverage as possible. We move on now to your second challenge, which is Poppy, one of the hardest battles in Scarlet and Violet in my opinion. This little girl is the best Steel type trainer in the region apparently, and well, her team is certainly better than Rika's, that's for sure. It was probably kind of jarring for many who were able to, for the most part, sweep Rika with water and grass type moves. Because if you think you're gonna do the same with fighting and ground type moves here, well, you're probably better off using a fire type move. That's beside the point though. Let's compare Poppy to some of the previous Steel type Elite Four members. Molayne from Ultra Sun and Moon, and Wickstrom from X and Y. Now Wickstrom's team is really all about only two of his Pokemon, being Aegislash and Scizor. Those two are really great Pokemon of course, and you should respect them. Aegislash will be annoying with its setup moves, and Bullet Punch on Scizor always has the chance to mess you up. His Klefki and Probopass though? Poppy outclasses both of those with her own Fairy Steel type on its own in Tinkaton. Wickstrom is an awful representation of the Steel typing, much like most of the Elite Four in Kalos, but Molayne is definitely better. His Metagross is definitely a better version of Poppy's Bronzong by far, and his usage of Bisharp brings the question, why doesn't Poppy use Kingambit? It probably would have been better than Bronzong really, but it's not too big of a deal. Molayne still doesn't have as good of a team as Poppy does. It just is what it is. As I said, if I'd make a change to Poppy's team, it'd probably be switching out Bronzong with Kingambit. But honestly, there's a reason why she's better than all of her Elite Four contemporaries in these battles. Honestly, in all of the set order Elite Four battles, I think she probably is the strongest second trainer ever. Bertha, as we just talked about, is a close second, but having Corviknight and Bronzong that can't be hurt by ground type moves, a sheer force using Copperajah that will hurt your team big time, as well as setting up stealth rocks, and then an ace in Tinkaton that, as we know, is one of the most beloved Pokemon in Paldea, and with the typing it has, it can easily put up a good fight. Poppy may be easier to dispatch if you're bringing in a fair amount of fire type coverage, but don't misjudge her just because she's a little kid. She will kick your butt with the power of cold hard steel. Next up, we have the Great Larry, pulling overtime as a member of the Elite Four, mastering flying types in his spare time. His team is incredibly solid, even finding a way to make Tropias rather useful as a lead. If given the opportunity to set up a sunny day, it very well could cause some damage. However, Larry isn't the only flying type Elite Four member. We also have Kahili back in Alola. She does have two very solid teams depending on the 7th generation you're going up against. Mandibuzz is a great wall, Crobat and Halucha both offer nice speed and attack, and then Beak Blast can hurt. But Larry's team is for sure better. While he could probably get a little more out of things by maybe using Honchkrow or Talonflame over Tropias, I still think he's got a formidable team. When we compare him to Flint and Glacia, I actually think Larry is better than both of them. He has some actual depth to his team, which Glacia lacks, as she carries 2 Glalie and 2 Frostlass. Then Flint can't even stay committed to his typing with his Elite Four team, making it even harder to actually take him seriously as a type expert. Larry's Elite Four team actually might be the best among those meeting his criteria, being the 3rd trainer you face off against. It's interesting, because while I do consider Poppy to be a more difficult battle, there's a chance that Larry could actually be the most interesting of the group despite being such a normal guy. So we'll finally look over Hassel here, and there is definitely a lot we can compare him to. He uses the dragon typing, perhaps not pulling out the best dragons that the region has to offer, but definitely some solid ones. I'll start off by saying that I'm pretty shocked he doesn't use Garchomp, considering he seems to be pretty good friends with the Gible. As a matter of fact, his whole team features just one pseudo-legendary Pokemon in Baxcalibur. That's right, despite the fact that basically every single pseudo-legendary is in this game, he doesn't use a single one on his team, instead choosing to bring in Noivern, Haxorus, Dragalge, and Flapple. This feels like a huge mistake, as Game Freak could have made Hassel incredibly terrifying and over-the-top strong, but instead decided to just make him a very run-of-the-mill dragon user. Now, I will say his team in the Academy Ace tournament is actually pretty good, improving upon his Baxcalibur and adding in a Dragonite to the squad. But we're not talking about that, sadly. When we compare Hassel to previous Dragon-type Elite Four members Lance, Drasna, and Drake, well, we can see that his team definitely is better than Drasna's due to having access to better Dragon types and having one more Pokemon. However, you're crazy if you think Drake's team is worse than his, because I'd rather take on any of Hassel's Pokemon than face off with Drake's Salamence. I get it. Dragalge is nice to have because of the poison typing, and of course Noivern's special attacks can cause some damage. But what in the world is up with not having Salamence and Hydreigon on this team over those mons? It would have made Hassel so much better. At the very least, his team is a little better than Lance's as well, since his Dragon team improves a lot more in championship battles during the 2nd generation. It's just pretty clear that Hassel was completely held back by Game Freak for whatever reason. They have a Dragon-type trainer here who easily could have been the most challenging trainer in the game, and they disappointedly decided he wasn't worth giving the best possible team. He's outclassed by Drake, and certainly by Lucian among final Elite Four members. I'd even argue Karen and Heart Gold and Soul Silver could end up giving you a harder time. It's unfortunate, but Hassel is just an idea of what could have been as the final Elite Four member here. So my final assessment is this. The Paldean Elite Four is definitely a challenge in some regards. I'd put them in the middle of the pack among all Elite Fours in difficulty. They don't come anywhere near the difficulty that the BDSP Elite Four offers, and honestly, I think that the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Elite Four might even be harder. Poppy is still one of the most challenging trainers in the region, and Larry can be a problem too if you're not all that prepared. Rika's a bit of a pushover, and Hassel is a disappointment. So this Elite Four leaves a lot to be desired, as does the champion of this region. But we've already gone over that in a previous video already. So that's it for this one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you believe that I was too harsh on the Paldean Elite Four, or do you think that I was perhaps a little too kind? I want to hear back from you guys though, so I'll be checking out the comments. Thanks again for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time with some more awesome content. We're finally here in 2023, and I'm super excited for what this year has to offer us. There's potential DLC for Scarlet and Violet on the horizon, and who knows just what else Game Freak may have up their sleeves. It's gonna be really exciting times coming up for a Pokemon fan. If you're interested in more Mystic content, check out my TikTok and Mystic Umbreon Shorts YouTube channel. I've got a really fun series starting up there very soon, and of course, have a weekly edition of my Should You Use series focusing on Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. Also, if you're into fanfictions and what ifs, check out Mystic Reads. I offer a ton of creative spoken word content on there, so come join me. Thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.